One day, in between dropping nukes upon West Virginia, we may happen upon a small town bordering a river called Point Pleasant. Towards the back of this town and up a ladder attached to a brick wall, we find an unlocked door opening into a small apartment. On an end table by the foot of the bed is a copy of The Mothman Cometh, a radio show created before the war. Around the apartment there isn't much that we can loot, and the only enemy within is a rat roach. We turn around and notice something beside the bed. On a nightstand beside the head of the bed is a holotape called Interloper.
There are other things in this world now that cannot be explained. The end of the world has awoken. Something. We all know the Mothman is out there, stalking and watching us, but what of the unseen? There are things we can only glimpse in our minds. Great entities beyond our comprehension. The Mothman is a creature more like us than the unknowable horrors in the peripheral vision of our subconscious minds. No longer just a false memory now. I have heard a tale of this entity made real, deep in the earth. And the storyteller was mad by any reckoning, but his story, no less true. My name is Jeff Lane, and I will lay bare this watcher. No matter how deep I must go, I will come to know the true nature of the interloper.
The holotape was created by a man called Jeff Lane, who seems to believe in the Mothman. He has heard tales of the creature living deep within the earth and has decided to search for it. Beside his holotape is a note given to him by a man called Rich Wilson. Rich tells Jeff that he's forgotten his keys at Rich's garage. His last name is Wilson, so we can use some deduction and learn that Jeff's lost keys are at Wilson's garage, northeast of Point Pleasant. Up the hill from Wilson's garage, we find a small red house, the inside of which is in somewhat of a disarray. Toward the back of the house, near a Mothman poster, we find a desk, and sitting on top of the desk are Jeff's keys. But these are labeled bathroom keys. What bathroom do these keys open? Well, if we travel back to Point Pleasant, we can find the Mothman Museum, a place I'm sure a Mothman fan such as Jeff has frequented. We can pick the lock to the place and enter. Within both the bottom and top floors we find very little loot, save for some fans and duct tape. After having searched the place, we remember the bathroom keys we got from Wilson's garage, and, combined with the knowledge that these keys are Jeff's, and that Jeff was a fan of the Mothman, we can conclude that these keys are for the lock to the downstairs bathroom door, which had already been picked by my traveling partner. Inside of the bathroom, we find nothing incredibly suspicious until we look behind the door and notice a large hole in the wall, leading into some kind of hidden basement. We enter through another hole and find some kind of disturbing church tucked beneath the Mothman Museum, a church that our friend Jeff must have visited. Roots protrude from the ground and have decorative antlers and bones to place atop them. Pews line the room, and centering the chamber we see a lectern. On top sit two notes, both sermons of the Mothman. The first note describes a man called Brother Charles, who saw the Mothman and was warned by him of impending floods. The cult decides to evade these floods by taking to the roofs of Point Pleasant, allowing those who scoff at the Mothman to die. The second note is some sort of summoning ritual. The cult invites those who believe in the Mothman to join them in summoning their god, in the hopes that he will divulge his secrets to them. Brother Charles, as mentioned in the notes, is a man whose corpse we can find at the Landview Lighthouse during an event where we can meet the Mothman, but that is a topic for another video. So far we know that this cult was thriving before the war, and its members were loyal to the Mothman. They tried and succeeded in summoning him, and were warned by the Mothman of floods. These floods were meant to occur on October 23rd, 2077, which is coincidentally the day the bombs dropped, and the world was plunged into nuclear chaos. So what happened to the cult of the Mothman? Or Jeff Lane for that matter, the man who is determined to find an interloper deep underground? Well, if we happen upon a place called the Lucky Hole Mine, we again pick up traces of Jeff Lane and the cult of the Mothman. First, however, it is important to pick up a note that sits within the third building in front of us, just outside the mine's entrance. It is from one smuggler to another, likely written just after the bombs dropped. It describes the location of a stash within the mine and gives us a code to open it for ourselves. We can then continue to our right, towards the entrance of the mine, and prepare for whatever awaits us within. Inside, we find some desk fans and a typewriter to loot to our immediate right. Upon the second desk, we see a note lying next to a terminal, which simply reads, "Your offering is acceptable to him." To find out what is on the terminal, we can equip our hacker perk and hack the terminal. We see 3 entries on the terminal, the first of which is labeled Strange Woman. It describes an old lady walking up to the mine and asking for tours. The author of this journal says no, and the lady gets mad at his response. The Protectrons escort her out, and the author makes a call to the nearby asylum, assuming she was an escapee. The second entry is called Closing Up. Apparently, word came in that the mine was tapped out and it was time to close up. As the author was shutting down pumps, the old lady returned with friends asking to see the mine. The author ran. The last entry is called Break In. The author checks the mine one last time as though compelled. He notices the locks were busted and knows it was the old woman and her friends. He ends his entry by stating that he doesn't want the mine, and that whatever group broke in can have it. So for whatever reason, a group of people wanted into the mine to see the depths, similar to how Jeff Lane wished to find something deep underground after hearing an old man's tale of an interloper. Speaking of Jeff Lane, if we turn around and walk up the stairs, we find a small camp fit with a sleeping bag, rations, and another holotape labeled The Chosen.
The interloper is here. I can feel it clearly. Last night, in visions more real than the senses, it called to me, and I go to it now. Signs are all around that I am not the only one to hear the call, though where they have failed, I will not, for it summons me alone in the end. Before I go deeper, for the truth revealed changes all. By its very nature, let it be known, in this world, the interloper has chosen Jeff Lane as the conduit of the unknowable. Together, the hidden reality becomes manifest at long last.
Jeff speaks again, this time revealing that the interloper he had been searching for has given him visions in his dreams, calling to him. He says that he was not the only one called, but he will be the only one to succeed in finding the interloper. He ends his holotape by ensuring that his legacy lives on, making sure people know that it is he who was summoned in the end. As we travel deeper into the mine, we begin to notice small candles littering the ground we walk, and more totems made from roots, a sign that the cult of the Mothman was indeed here. Eventually, we come to what appears to be a shrine. Behind it, there are 2 sleeping bags, and a note sits upon a bench above them. It is titled, His Birth, and reads, "He is the one who came before the firstborn of the wood. Blood wept from his branches, and he shared it with all his believers." It is obvious now that these notes no longer describe the Mothman, but something far more sinister. Continuing downward, we come to a table with another note on top, called His Blood. It reads, "The woods gave him life, gave him strength, but the blood gave him purpose. He gathered us. He taught us to share as he shared." So this creature drew purpose from sharing its blood, then taught its followers to share as well. But share what? Well, as we move deeper, we come upon a small spring, and beside it, sitting upon a rock, is yet another note. His believers wept, for their new home lacked water, and their throats were dry. He gathered their tears upon his branches, and spread them upon the earth, and from that came forth the springs. Before us are two paths, which lead to the same penultimate room, a church, not unlike the one in the Mothman Museum, sitting hundreds of feet below ground, at the edge of an underground pond. Before a large shrine sits a lectern with two swords attached. Beyond that is a coffin, upon which sits the final note, called his priestess. Blessed are you, first priestess of the wood. Through you we heard his voice. Through you we gained his strength. Could this first priestess have been the old lady written about in the terminal upstairs? It seems likely, as the mine was newly abandoned, and if anyone were to build down here, it would have been those people who broke in. We can get closer to the large shrine, which juts out of the pond in front of a small waterfall. Behind it, hidden in the dirt and covered by roots, sits a large metallic face, glaring at the pews behind us. We retrace our steps and take a tunnel to our right, following its path until we notice a strange tunnel, hidden behind a bundle of vines. Pushing past, we find ourselves in some kind of technical room, likely the pump room referenced in the terminal. We find more cultist masks and a dagger within this room, but little more than that. We backtrack again and find yet another hidden tunnel behind even more vines and roots. We follow the dark and eerie tunnel slowly, unsure of where it will take us. We emerge in another hidden room, though in this room resides something dark and evil. This is the home of the interloper. The first thing we notice upon entering is the sheer number of corpses on the floor. Were they the cultists, or perhaps they were the cultist sacrifices made in honor of this breathing tree creature to our right? That is when we remember Jeff, who intended to find this creature after it called to him. Could Jeff be among these skeletons? Did this creature lure him to his death? Behind it, we see more metallic faces staring at us as we investigate. The most startling thing of all is that this is indeed a creature. Not only do we see it breathe and move, but if it is shot, it bleeds. Branches grow from its back, and at the tips they seem to form fingers, grabbing at the cave wall behind it. Upon exiting this room, we can head right. Looking to our left, we notice a door with a keypad nearby. This is why we grabbed the smuggler's note from outside, because the code written on this paper both opens and closes this door. There are many more locations across West Virginia that hold signs of the interloper and the cult of the Mothman, from sunken churches to the Landview Lighthouse I mentioned in this video. It is clear that after the bombs fell, this worship spread. What are its connections to Mothman, though? Clearly the two cults are one and the same, as the sites of worship are similar throughout Appalachia. Though, if they were truly one and the same, wouldn't Jeff have known about the interloper already, assuming he was part of the Mothman cult? Jeff even says that the bombs awoke this creature, so why were the people of the Mothman cult worshipping this thing before the bombs even fell? Perhaps we will never know the true connection, but one thing is for certain. Just as Jeff Lane told us, the interloper is very real.